Okay, thank you very much. And hello, everyone. I'm just going to try something a little bit unusual. I want to try to do a Menti. Who has never done a Menti, M-E-N-T-I, never ever? Great, please find your phone, because we're about to try to do one.
There we go.
Oh, great. Okay, so this is what a Menti looks like to my students. I can have this as a slide in my slide deck, or I'm just doing it straight from my laptop. The reason I chose this kind of ridiculous stuff was in the depths of lockdown, when everybody was stuck at home and you needed to do something a little bit funny just to liven the mood and get people interested. So if you go to www.menti.com on your phone, this is an audience response system, which is dead simple to use, and type in that code, you should be able to respond to this Menti. And I might just keep talking while you're doing that. Well, I said about lightening the mood, but also I use this kind of thing as an example of the kinds of data one might collect. And we can have a discussion. Is this nominal data or ordinal data? Is it ordered in some way? I would suggest this one was nominal. They were freaky, but except maybe number 4 is very laid back. But I also have a rubber duck scale where the rubber duck starts as pert and upright, the huge rubber duck that was in Sydney Harbour a while ago. And then as it deflates, it gradually keels over. And so that's an ordinal scale. And we talk about the fact that although that we're using numbers here, we're not actually counting or measuring anything. So these are not quantitative scales. So it's a bit of fun, but it also is a way into talking about different kinds of data. Now I can see that 13 people have responded so far. So I might just, you can still keep responding. But if I go on to the next slide, this should, it should have shown me the results. Here we go. And so in real time, the students can see who's choosing which option. And, you can use this for more serious mathematical things. You can have set questions, which of these matrices is square, whatever you want. But the thing about it is it's real time, it's easy to set up. And you can see the number 5 is very interesting. Which one was number 5? The one in the middle. Quite alert but not alarmed. As opposed to number 3. As opposed to number 3, what was number 3? Alarmed. Just a bit of fun. Okay, now there's another question I have here, which I use at the end of a Zoom or Teams meeting. When I'm teaching online and there are 250 students out of 400 online, I don't want to run the chat. Why? Because it distracts everybody. And the students are busy, typing in questions in the chat or trying to answer each other's questions in the chat, and they're not listening. So I quickly decided I'm not going to run a chat during a big online class. So instead, I do something like this, open-ended. So I'm hoping you can access this one. I don't use that question. I use this at the end of the class, and I say there's 5 minutes to go. Put any questions you have in here, and then I can go through them. But better than that, if I'm running out of time, I've got the questions and I can answer them in a post, after the class. So it saves me going through all of the chat. So I just thought this might be a bit of a fun thing to do. Great. The questions are up in real time. Students can see that someone's answered one question already. So what do you think? Some interesting things, quite easy to use. Menti.com, our university, UTS, now has a site license for it, which is great because we use it a lot, and it's very easy to use. We can share Mentis, we can do lots of things with them. You can also get different kinds of Menti scales. But anyway, that's enough about Menti. So thank you for the feedback there. I might switch to the proper slides now. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. So this is a picture of our new building, Building 2, one of our many new buildings. I would like to say that as snazzy as the buildings are, I acknowledge they are all on the lands of the Gadigal people. And I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal clans of the Eora Nation as custodians of the land and custodians of knowledge for the place where UTS is located. So I'm talking about online delivery. This is a bit about the subject. It's the type of subject it is baby statistics, really, always in a context. So that's called quantitative literacy. It's very fashionable in the US, not perhaps quite so fashionable in Australia at the moment. But our uni likes to have this as an option, an elective for all students. So in the class, we have engineers, law students, business students, every people. And it's also a core subject in the Bachelor of Health Science. And it's one of the first semester subjects they do. And then in the next semester, they do epidemiology and they do a lot more heavy duty statistics. So this is like a general introduction to statistics for the people in that particular degree. There are 3 modules in it, which you can see there. In module 1, we do a little bit of stats, we do maths and media. And module 2, we look at data stories. We ask them to find some data and write their own data story. And in module 3, we talk about cognitive biases and logical fallacies, which come into anything that's written up about data. So I think I've mentioned these things. And the illustration there is what used to happen pre-COVID when we were in one of the collaborative teaching spaces. So that student is standing up, is talking about their own data and using some nice calculus kind of language there. I quite particularly like that illustration. Something's increasing at an increasing rate, but these are not calculus students necessarily. Okay, so we particularly build in a presentation. We call it a progress report. It's a lot less scary to students if you call it a progress report. And then you genuinely can give them some feedback, which then they incorporate into their final written report, which is due a week or 2 later. And we collect that feedback using a Google form or a Microsoft form, and we collect it for each student from every other student in that smaller group. And then the tutor checks it and then removes the names of the students, emails the report, the feedback to the presenter. So every student gets one of those and they have to reflect on that feedback in their final report. Before COVID, we had this wonderful classroom. I'm dying to get back in there. You can see 250 people in there, and they are in zones which are color-coded. You can't see the colors there now, but each zone had about 20 students and a tutor, and plenty of screens. So at a touch of a button, I could present on all the screens myself, or I could stop talking. They could present to each other. You could call up, okay, group 5, your turn. And then group 5 screen would appear on all the screens. A lot of fun. We got really good at this. And our best semester was 2019, wouldn't you know? And then, of course, bang, everybody had to stay at home. So we went from 1 3-hour workshop per week to other things. And luckily for the subject, it was chosen to be an exemplar subject. We were also moving from Blackboard to Canvas at the same time. But because it was a large subject and suitable as an elective for everybody, it was chosen for special resources. We had a wonderful team of online, of learning designers, and they helped us build an entire Canvas course in about 6 weeks. And then after that, we just were doing it 1 week ahead. And so we were able to replace the 3-hour workshop in person on Canvas with time that the students spent themselves going through the Canvas pages, and a workshop which I ran, and we did the CAT scale and just kept things ticking over in that workshop. Spoke about current things in the media and so on, and then a 1-hour tutorial. The first time we did this, the tutors and I all met online for an hour before they did the tutorial. So we were, all singing from the same song sheet, so to speak. But we've now done it 3 or 4 times, and the tutors just run these wonderful tutorials in their own style, and they do a fantastic job. So what did we do with the online stuff? We found some videos, some excellent videos, and then we would build quizzes to check for understanding. Padlets were fun. Does everybody use Canvas? Oh, okay. I thought it might have been more popular than that. What are you using? Blackboard? Right. Other things? Other LMSs? Moodle? Right. Okay. Well, I could talk about Canvas all day. I love it. Hated it at first because it was so different, but now I'm a convert because there's so many things you can build into it. And I think what I learned was to think of it as a book. Think of UTS Online, which was Blackboard, is more like a filing cabinet. You've got your lectures here, you've got tutorials here, you've got sample questions there. With Canvas, we built it like a book. The kids worked through the Canvas pages one at a time and answered the quizzes or read something or looked at a video as they went through the book. Okay, so this is one of the pages that I quite like. This is about Scott Meyer's work. He surveyed a newspaper in North Carolina and came up with 11 common mathematical errors in the newspaper. Interesting, he found that every edition of the paper in 2002 had at least 2 articles which had mathematical errors in them. Now, what do we mean by mathematical errors? Well, things like numbers do not tally, like percentages in a pie graph adding up to more than 100%, perhaps misinterpretation of numbers, and so on and so on. So this is part of what we want the students to think about. So that's a screenshot from the Canvas page. And when the students click on each of those, the tile turns around and shows them something. So it's kind of interactive. It's nice in that way. And it's followed up on the next slide with a little quiz. Now, these quizzes in Canvas don't contribute in any way to the student's score. It's not even collected individually whether they what mark they get. But basically, they can answer that question, check it straight away, redo the question if they want, or go on to the next one. And at the end of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, maybe it's 8 or 9 questions, they get a score out of 9, but it's not recorded. We also have online quizzes for assessment, but this one is just one of the interactives that they do to test their knowledge as they go through the subject. So our Canvas pages look like that. The students are expected to spend time on the Canvas pages, and they do. There's a kind of mixed feedback about the quantity that we've got in the Canvas pages. I don't know about you, but I find if I respond to the student feedback each semester, gradually my feedback scores go up. You know, it's sensible to pay attention. So if a lot of people are saying there's too much in the subject, I need to do something about it. Okay, so this kind of summarizes how we move from face-to-face to online. A feature of the subject before COVID was having guest speakers come in person, and the students really enjoyed that. We couldn't do that in the same way, but we found it was easy enough to make a video, interview the journalist. Jenna Price used to be on our staff, and so I interviewed her about what she thought about mathematics in the media, and that's now a video that's a resource, and it's online. We couldn't do debates. Well, we haven't yet found a way to do debates that way, perhaps. And Kahoots are fun. Kahoots are used a lot in high school maths. Maybe your kids use Kahoots at school. The tutors really liked Kahoots, but we're now moving more to Menti. Okay, so that kind of summarised how we try to move things. Feedback from students, of course, is mixed, as you might expect. Over the years, we've improved our assessment guidelines, so they now include rubrics, so students know exactly what they have to do to get a pass, credit, distinction, or distinction. The tutors were fantastic, and I might mention that tutors spent a lot more time with students individually in recent semesters than they have in the past. These are things that we need to work on, I think. We do expect the students to use Excel for one of their assignments, and because it's an elective for everybody, some of the students become a bit anxious about that. We need to improve our resources. Excuse me. Okay, so lessons learned. We gradually moved away from Zoom and to Teams, and I don't know if has everyone used Microsoft Teams? Oh, lots of people. Great. Okay. The tutors really preferred that environment. They felt they had a bit more control over it, and thanks, Peter. And they felt that it was a good opportunity for having spontaneous meetings within Teams, which is easy enough to do. Yes, so anyway, move towards Teams. Teams, of course, can be another LMS if you want. You could put files in your Teams site for your particular students to access. Collaborative spreadsheets, this one we're getting better at. What we wanted here was something to replace the sitting around a table looking at one spreadsheet together. And so what we do now is we put students in breakout rooms of about 4 or 5 students, and we send them a link to a spreadsheet, which they can all type into. One person will do the mean, median, mode, someone else will do the graph, somebody else will answer the question about what does the graph tell us about the data, and you know, they're discussing all the time. And we're getting better at that. The students are getting better at it also. Of course, there are difficulties. Not everyone can access everything. I don't know, it seems to be a law of technology in the classroom. There's always some glitches somewhere. And that's a comment that if you're going to use something like collaborative work for assessment, it's really important to practice it before the week to do it. I think I've mentioned those. The template, I was resistant to that at first. I thought that's making things a bit too easy, but in fact, the students liked it. You know, type in here the name of your article. They had to find a news media article with mathematics used to tell a story in it. In this box, put the link, copy the link. In the next box, put in a snapshot of the graph from the article, and that way it helps students complete everything in the assignment quite well. So I think I've mentioned all of those things. Enrolments, if we count enrolments over the 3 semesters, you can see we have indeed bumped up in 2021. 2022 will be another bumpy year. So we have autumn semester, spring and summer in those numbers. And some nice feedback that I always like to show to people. And of course, I want to acknowledge the wonderful team of tutors who run the subject. And I am really blessed to work with these people. They're fantastic. And I think I might just have time for a couple of questions.
We've still got